what is going on YouTube? This is Acid Roots. So I'm going to review the third mixtape by rapper Mulatto, also known as Latto nowadays. Basically, this product is self-titled. At least it was back in 2018. This product is called Mulatto, and it came out in the summer of 2018. So the thing about this particular product is just the fact that Mulatto, well, there's probably going to be some times in this review where I'm going to refer to Latto as Mulatto, but it's just kind of a particular pitch. I just feel like Mulatto has a little bit more of like a ring to it. It's just kind of within the pitch behind it. But Latto basically was on the come up in like the mid 2010s as far as those pitches kind of happen with it. Just some good type appeals. Some good type appeals to kind of get within that aspect. I definitely appreciate the fare behind this particular album. This would be a relative classic. This is a basic classic from like the late 2010s as far as those pitches kind of happen, especially out of the new school, I'd have to say. Had three music videos for it, so it was a big deal around that particular time. But yeah, I would just say in terms of like the rookie type fare, or at least more folks that were kind of relatively new on the scene around 2018 forward, I'd have to say Mulatto's a pretty good pitch to kind of get here. Now by this stage, way out in 2024, almost 2025, Mulatto's really kind of grown within the aspect of she's on her third album now. She's got plenty of projects. She typically gets some pretty large hits nowadays. One particular hit single that I remember from her was Big Dick Energy as far as those pitches can happen. So it's just within the pitch behind it. She's had a number of these. Her most recent album is Sugar Honey Iced Tea. Kind of within the pitch. She had an album called Queen of the South that I want to get to as far as those pitches can happen. But I was around the concept of eventually getting to some of her music, but I was just trying to figure out which ones. Probably going to start with the older ones before getting to some of these new type ones. But I just would have to say within the fare behind it, I'm glad that this is definitely a pretty splitting type product just within the fare behind it. It's some good type stuff. And the thing about Mulatto on here is she's pretty similar to like Coi Leray, some of those type of folks that kind of blend like trap, 2010s trap with like some R&B type sounds like Drake and some of those type folks, kind of like a Future or Drake, just with like the sing-songy type vibe from like a female perspective. So it's a good pitch to kind of get that. Really blurs those particular lines. It does have some ride out type songs on here. It does have like some good, almost like Zaytoven type beats. And apparently I would have to say, I'm not really full-blown sure, but Mulatto might be from Atlanta. She has some similar type sounds on here that sound like some Zaytoven beats, even though they're not. But they have similarities to some of that just Gucci Mane from 2014 or 2015 or 2013, some of those type of fairs, and Migos, some of those type of folks, Young Thug, Future, some of that particular type flair. I mean, this is a southern hip-hop type album within the pitch behind it. This has some good flair about it, but it's like the aspects behind this. Very amalgamated, very nice package to kind of get this particular product just within the tone, having this excess kind of goodness just within the tone behind it. Real nice, very sonically pleasing type project. I kind of feel like Latto is kind of like the bite-sized kind of fireball to kind of get on here as far as those pitches kind of happen. She's pretty fiery, pretty similar. I'm trying to think. There was a rapper I reviewed back in late 2022. I think her name was like kind of a spicy lyricist, kind of like Honey Cocaine. Honey Cocaine is not as much around nowadays, but she's pretty similar to her, just with like a rather, just kind of, she just has like that particular, she's kind of like a piranha. She has that bite about her, just be able to have that particular pitch, just within the aspect behind it with some good type flair. Do appreciate the aspect on here. I mean, it's an interesting aspect for her to name like her debut album, The Queen of the South, as far as those pitches, because not terribly many female chicas from like Southern hip hop have really attempted to do that. When you think of like Trina or Jackie O or some of those type of folks, or Shauna, they didn't really go for that particular flair back in their heyday. But it's just a good pitch to kind of have that particular flair, because it's debatable within the pitch. She has some good projects. I haven't listened to very many of them, but this is at least a good standing point to say that this is some vicious stuff. But yeah, there were 3 singles, and out of the 10 songs on this brief album, which is kind of a mixtape, kind of an album. I mean, it's not really available for like DatPiff download or free downloads on the internet, but it is a purchasable mixtape, so it's just kind of within the tone that you can refer to it an album or as a mixtape, but either way, it's just within the pitch. But the stuff off this particular mixtape is, I wound up recommending 9 out of 10 songs in here. So the only song I don't recommend in any fashion would just be the song Solid. So just talk about that one real quick. This is just like a poor example of like some of that more trap and B that just doesn't work as full blown. There are some ones on here that nail it a lot better, like Deserve and Infidelity, and like Put It On You, some of those type of pitches that do have like some of that particular type sound that like other starlets around that time would kind of do, like Coi Leray and some of those type folks. There's some other ones I just can't think of. Maybe Sweetie did that sort of thing, and some other folks like that. You know, Nicki Minaj on the right day would do that sort of tune, but I just look at it as just some good type flair to be able to get some of this. But this particular song Solid just didn't nail within that aspect as far as doing it. It's just a little bit more of like a tamer type one that just, I mean, it kind of felt like a more of a slow jam type one within the pitch. It's the relative aspect, but just not as affable, didn't have as much flair as some of these better ones I particularly did on here. But this album's still going to get a 10 out of 10, just to say within the pitch. 9 out of 10, 9 songs I recommend out of 10 is very vicious to kind of get. But the 3 singles would be, at least the thing about this particular product is just the fact that Mulatto did not really actively kind of show off this particular album as much. pitch. When you go to her YouTube channel, one of the songs is actually kind of hidden on here, and on top of that, it's a little bit trickier to find in like a standard YouTube search. So you do have to kind of seek out Latto's YouTube to find this particular product, and it's not available on Mixtape download sites. So it's just within the pitch. It's kind of like what happened with Glorilla when I described that before. That's a little bit trickier one to get. So I'm not really sure. I think probably just because it's called Mulatto, and Latto nowadays is starting to downplay having that name just for the controversy that it caused for pitches like that. There's something about that name that just was not as good, but it's in the pitch. So the song that was kind of hidden, at least on her YouTube, was the song On Me, but the three singles would be Going On, Infidelity, and Put It On You. So we'll talk about these. So Going On is a real nice bop on here. This is like a keeping it all the way real, kind of night turning up to kind of get within that tone. Just stocked up on goodies. I would definitely feel like feeling right and like the night haze kind of get here. Definitely some Zaytoven type pitches, kind of have some of that, just takes it back to like Quavo or Offset or Takeoff, some of those type folks, Young Thug, some of those type folks, Lil Durk in certain senses, Gucci Mane definitely says some of that type flair. Just a nice kind of neighborhood type bop to kind of get within the sense of just like standard kind of Atlanta sound type trap turn up that this is ripped out of 2016, 2017, typical type stuff. Infidelity is a nice one as well. This switches up the tone, but it's another nice gem to kind of get. It's like a nice trap duet, I'd have to say. Just a mid-pace kind of trap R&B wave to kind of have within that tone. Latto gives a pretty good take on like the Bonnie and Clyde type. Latto gives a pretty good take on like the Bonnie and Clyde type vibes as far as those pitches kind of happen. It's just an overall gem to kind of get here. So the cat that's on Infidelity is Coca Vango, who I haven't really heard that much, but the cat on the Infidelity song is Coca Vango, who I haven't really heard that much, but I like the pitch behind what was with this particular song as far as that flair kind of goes along with it. Just good, nice one. I do feel like trap duets do not super commonly kind of happen. It's just good type flair to be able to get some of this just for more post up with Bay type tunes as far as those pitches kind of happen with it. Just good type pitch. Put It On You is another single off this particular product. Now, this is probably one of the best songs on the album, I'd have to say, at least in the trap R&B type format. I definitely feel like some of these turn-up type songs like the Zaytoven style, like Going On and Baddest and Do It, are some nice pitches. Definitely like those vicious ones, but in terms of like the more Drake and R&B style future, in terms of like the Drake and more R&B style future of some of those type folks, I'd say Put It On You is probably one of the best songs on here. Just real pop rap radio ready within the pitch. This reminds me of Lil Durk and Young Thug, some of those type people. This trap, R&B, this nice winding strip club, IG life kind of, it's like some nice winding kind of strip club and IG life fizz to kind of get within that tone. And it's just like a bubbly snack to kind of have here. So it's just nice tone, just real nice fizzy pop to kind of get within that particular pitch about it. Real nice bop. It works for what it is. Lip gloss kind of music for the ladies as far as those pitches kind of happen just within the tone behind it. Real nice flair to kind of get within that pitch. Excellent aspect just within the tone. Yeah, but there's some excellent type flares on this particular album here, I'd have to say. So talk about some of these on here. Like Deserve is a real nice one. Wasn't expecting her to team up with Derez Deshawn. That's another reason why I feel like this might be Atlanta sound between some of these Zaytoven style beats, which is interesting. Kind of get Latto and some of these type ones that feel like they'd be suited for Quavo or the rest Amigos and Young Thug and some of those type folks, and Gucci Mane especially. But Deserve on here. Deserve is a real nice one. Like I was saying, it says Derez Deshawn, who also goes by the name Debo back in the mixtape days, that I had to say. Deserve is like an effeminate kind of trap right around malaise kind of get here. It just reminds me of like Coi Leray, definitely, I'd have to say. Good makeshift grief and dredge kind of have within that tone. So it's an interesting type pitch just because Derez Deshawn kind of switched his tone up to more pop rap or pop trap as far as those pitches kind of happen. He was doing that sort of stuff with like his 2017, 2018 albums that I need to get to. Good type pitches kind of have some of that commerce just within the aspect of having some charting songs just within it. It's actually pretty commercial within the sense behind it. This is another radio grab that could have worked pretty well on here. Just that standard kind of grief type pitch, the kind of just bickering type tones, just like something that Mary J. Blige or one of those folks would kind of do. Kelly Rowland, some of those type folks in particular, I'd have to say. Another nice turn up of a song that's very similar to Going On would be On Me. This is the song that Latto hid on her YouTube, but this is a real nice one. I kind of question why she hid this particular song, but it's like a lyric kind of 2010s trap pop up to kind of get here. I definitely feel like this is Set It Off and kind of sound bass of this is definitely like a Set It Off song, and I'd say it has some pretty sound bass on here. I'd have to suppose about that, and Latto gives like some nice flair on this particular song. She's pretty good with the particular tone as to how she gets, kind of switches up between like the more R&B type ones, just good style just within the pitches behind it as far as those pitches kind of happen with it. This is definitely like an album standout, I'd have to say, and the song goes ham pretty well. There's at least 4 of these on here. I feel like there's at least probably 4 trap R&B songs. Some of these ones that are trap R&B would be like Solid and Infidelity, Put It On You, and probably at least one other one on here I can't remember, like Deserve, some of those type ones, then Going On, and On Me, Do It, and Baddest are kind of the ones that are more turn up type songs, and there's like a real craze type one, just an interesting aspect. It's kind of a ratchet. It's kind of like a ratchet kind of Lorena Bobbitt type vibe on like a song like Kill a Hoe. And then I would say that there's another song that I'm forgetting about that I don't remember, which is yeah, I don't remember the song I'm missing here, but yeah, I'd say that Can't Stop is like a nice kind of this cruise around type song, kind of get just like a standard in between type stuff. But we'll get to some of those. But just being able to say that, just to say that On Me is definitely like some good trap turn up. Some more songs like that would be Do It. Like I was saying, this reminds me of like vintage mid 2010s ATL to definitely get here. Just some mixtape Zaytoven and Gucci Mane vibes kind of get within that pitch. And this is like, yeah, Do It is a song that reminds me of like vintage kind of mid 2010s ATL mixtape vibes kind of get within that tone. Just some Zaytoven Gucci Mane type pitches kind of have within that flair. And it's like some good neighborhood turn up. Typical of that Zaytoven type fashion, just the same pitch behind it. Just really feels like within that type flair of just the new school kind of going up with some of those vibes that you remember from like 2011, 2013. Good type pitches there. Baddest is another one that's just like that. It's like a slinky kind of vehicle thump to kind of get here. It goes with Going On and On Me, some of those type ones like I was saying. Definite Stunt Hour, good song to get to thrills, and just some basic kind of turnout slam to kind of have within that pitch. So a lot of these just have that pretty similar fashion. So those are some nice ones on there in terms of the turn up songs. Kill a Hoe is a real nice bop as well. Like I was saying, this is like a crazy kind of female ride out prowl to kind of get within that tone. It's a menacing kind of stunt night, I would definitely feel like within that pitch. Shrill vibes definitely. It's like a good bicker argument type song kind of get here, and it's just a get loud type tune within the pitch behind it. Just get rowdy, Latto and some of that crunk kind of gangsta boo, la chat type vibes, some of those type pitches. Ride out kind of like Krayshaw in certain senses as well as far as those pitches kind of have with it. Just a real kind of feral type one within the pitch. Just typical kind of dominatrix almost type vibes, just with like a typical kind of get Cray just within the tone behind it. Real like the pitch. Can't Stop is a good gem on here. It's like a gelled out kind of night breeze kind of get within that tone. Just some in between moments, and like the after hours, I would definitely feel like here just a basic kind of commerce and just a song to have some few errands kind of get done within that fair. So it's just basic in between, just within the pitch behind it. Just some of the concepts of just being able to just kind of a breezy, just after effect of just like cruise arounds just within that concept of just not necessarily like turn up, not necessarily like dredge or makeshift, but just kind of within the moments of just simple kind of just plainer and just middle of the road type moments just within the flair behind it. Standard type cruise arounds that just have some extra moments within the pitch behind it. This is kind of one that feels like an odd man out off this particular product, just because the concept, there's not really clones of this particular song. It just kind of feels like some extra type time on here. It's kind of questioning. It's the extra energy behind the song. It's a good song with just within the pitch that it's not trap R&B and it's not turn up within the pitch. So it's just some extra type flair to have some of those type moments for just some just standard, maybe awkward Tuesday kind of errand, something like that. Some of those type fairs are just getting like lunch at a place you don't often get, like Subway or something like that. It's one of those type tones just within the flair behind it. Good type tones, but honestly, I've talked about every single song on here, I'd have to say, within that pitch. I think that basically sums up this particular album as far as those flares going to happen. Talked about all 9 of these. So basically, I give this album like a 10 out of 10 just within the pitch. The social score is probably going to get a 10 out of 10 as well. Latto's pretty popular, especially in the nowadays type times. It seems like she's definitely pretty huge on Instagram, some pitches like that. She's pretty much in the forefront. I'd say she's probably right in her prime as far as those pitches going to happen. Just not quite, maybe not quite at the apex, but just within the pitch that she's on the up ramp as far as being able to say that she has the concept of just being able to get more continued hits. If she could get more hits like Big Dick Energy, some of those type ones would be pretty good appeal within the aspect just to get back to the top of the charts within that flair. But she's definitely in the right, doing some of the right things right now just within the pitch behind it. You know, the thing about female rappers is, you know, when you think of rappers like Trina or Lil Kim or DeBrat or some of those type folks, they typically only stay around for like maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years. But Latto's actually been around since at least 2016, so she's been on the come up for a while. It's starting to have the pitch where you can be able to say that she might be a queen of the South just within the pitch behind it. There's some good type flares, at least in the new school type vibes, just within the flair behind it. The good type aspects. If you do like folks like Trina, you do like folks like Shauna and Jackie O, some of those type folks, southern rap type mistresses within that particular tone, I definitely feel like Latto's a good choice to kind of have within that flair behind it. Some good, excellent aspects. So in terms of the future, yeah, I think I don't remember what I said here as far as those pitches going to happen. I think I said I was giving this album like a 10 out of 10. I don't know if I talked about the social score. I really don't remember within the pitch behind it, but I just have to say the social score would probably be a 10 out of 10 as well, just within the flair. I feel like the turn up songs are really excellent on here. It's a good balance. It's not just like a few turn up songs and a few other type songs or just personal type ones. There's actually not that many personal moments on here. The personal moments are more of the trap R&B, where Latto's a little bit more beside herself and in her thoughts as far as those pitches kind of happen with it. But I do look after the tone. She's pretty good at this trap R&B within the pitch. There is like one of these in between type cruise arounds and Can't Stop. And then there's just, yeah, this would be within the tone behind it. There's actually another one on here that I'm forgetting about. Let's say the other song that I didn't recommend within the pitch was Saul, which is pretty much like another trap R&B type song, and so which is another trap R&B type song. So it may actually be 5 trap R&B songs. I want to say Infidelity, Solid, Deserve, Put It On You, and Infidelity, Put It On You, Solid, Deserve, and I'm just trying to do the math here. It just took a little bit to do the math. So the extra 2 songs would be Can't Stop and Kill a Hoe, just within those pitches. So it's just kind of the concept of getting these balances. Pretty good aspect of some varieties on here that just have the pitch of different styles, and just being able to nail these within that. Pretty good aspect as far as having some of these varietized type styles, just being able to nail the different vibes and just within the pitch behind it. So I would say virtually like a 10 out of 10 social, just within the pitch behind it. Has enough flair to be able to have some of these type of moments. Just kind of switching it up between like the dredge, which is just kind of the aspect of just kind of having just more hands full with relationship fair as far as those pitch kind of happen. A good half the album kind of has that pitch. There's some turn up type moments for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, some of those type fairs, and then some extra type moments just for cruise arounds and just more crazy nice just in the pitch behind it. So it has some extra type vibes, on here just in the pitch behind it. Nice bite size, just concept of like a hit album that's just kind of almost like a teaser, but also like enough of like a relative meal to be able to have some good aspects, have like that relative flair just within enough bite and venom to kind of see that she's kind of more in the new school, just on the come up, but still some excellent type fairs that holds promise. So it's a good pitch for that. In terms of the future, like I was saying, Latto has just dropped an album as recent as like the late summer of 2024. So some good pitches kind of get that in particular. She's on her 3rd album, just within the fire. I'd say definitely she's on the ramp upward as far as those pitches going to happen, just within the tone. I do question if she's going to be able to top her top 3 single from 2022. I think Big Dick Energy came out in 2022 or 2023. Don't remember when it came out, but just within the pitch behind it, hopefully there can be some further songs to kind of get more kind of gloss and shine within those aspects. But this is like a virtual kind of new era classic here, I definitely have to say, and definitely has a lot of promise for like female Southern rap.